Hi everyone, I'm Jenny. I'm from the Apps Partnerships team here at Google Play. So on a daily basis, I speak to app developers about their challenges and their goals. They tell me that they're trying to get more users to subscribe. They're trying to get more users to discover features within their apps. The developers I talk to, as well as everyone else in this room, you optimize products in order to better influence how your users behave. And so for me, it really makes sense that if you want to better optimize for user behavior, we should understand a bit more about behavioral insights. It just makes complete sense. So later on, you're going to hear from Sammy, who's the CEO of The Fabulous. And The Fabulous is an app that helps people build better daily habits. He'll share how they saw remarkable growth in user retention as a result of applying behavioral economic principles to their app. So in my job as an apps business development manager, I've spent the last year immersing myself in the fields of behavioral economics, gamification, and product psychology. And I'm sure people in this room, as well as on the live stream, recognize quite a few of the books on this virtual bookshelf here. So we have books like Nudge, Hooked, Predictably Irrational. And there's so many great principles within all of these books that app developers can be applying to their apps today. And so you don't have to be a behavioral scientist to understand what your users want. You just need to get a feel for some of the principles in these books, start experimenting, and see what works for you. So today's session will really act as a reminder, because I'm sure a lot of you are applying similar principles already. And what I'm going to be sharing with you are ways that you can address your users' needs better in ways that save yourselves time and money. So to make this session as actionable as possible for you, what I want you to do is to keep in mind one key user behavior that you're trying to optimize in your own app. This could be purchasing a subscription, inviting a friend to the app, or perhaps getting more people to return to your app after that initial onboarding phase. So hopefully everyone here has that behavior in mind. So keep it in mind throughout the rest of the session. So now what I want to do is introduce you to 3 steps inspired by behavioral insights that you can follow to make this particular desired action a reality. Many companies tend to focus on step 3, which is all about trying to boost user motivation, when actually, I think time and money could be better spent by focusing on step 1, which is identifying the barriers in the first place. And so when I talked about step 3 then, it's about often developers focus on costly reward schemes and loyalty schemes. So instead, let's start with step 1, simplifying the behavior. So every decision we make requires overcoming barriers of some kind. Let's think about everyone in this room today. The fact that you've decided to attend I/O, perhaps you had to overcome huge distances to get here. You had to debate over whether the cost of the ticket was worth the price. Maybe you had loads of other commitments that you had to also think about committing to, but instead you're here today. So why haven't more users carried out that one specific behavior that you've identified a few moments ago? Again, let's think about it. Could be it takes too much time for them to complete that action. Perhaps the purchase involved is too costly, or choosing to do it, among other choices, just requires too much mental effort. And so we can simplify this by identifying these types of barriers to behavior and removing them. So the food delivery app Just Eat knew that they would get more successful repeat transactions if their users saved payment details during the checkout flow. Now, via Google Analytics, they identified that many users just weren't doing this. And while this data tells us the what, it doesn't necessarily tell you the why. It doesn't tell you why users weren't doing this. So what they had to do was actually conduct usability tests. And by taking this approach, they found out that many users had certain emotions that you just can't identify in data. For example, some users were concerned about the security of digital payments, while others simply didn't want to take that extra step of clicking Save Payment Details. So after identifying these barriers, Just Eat simplified the act of saving the payment details by firstly making the last used card the default payment option for any future transaction. And this is really important here because defaults are extremely powerful. we tend to follow the path of least resistance. So when defaults make sense, they're a really great way of overcoming that barrier to act. Secondly, Just Eat prioritize partnerships with trusted payment providers to reduce security concerns in those users. And again, even if you're not currently running usability sessions, the Play console offers some really great tools to help you identify your users' pain points. For example, you can analyze real user reviews with the topics and benchmarks analysis features. So decision-making is impacted by the number of choices offered, which is something Sammy will talk about a bit later on, and how they tackled that in the Fabulous. But it's also impacted by how those choices are presented to the user. So now I want you to take a look and glance at this upsell flow from the recipe app Simple Feast. So they're offering the user 3 choices: the monthly, the yearly, and the forever. So I'd love to get a show of hands here in this room. Who thinks they're trying to get more people to purchase the monthly plan? No hands. What about the yearly plan? It's pretty unanimous. And how about the forever plan? OK, there's a few hands there. So the answer is the yearly plan, because this is actually the best value plan for their users. And what they did was they applied 4 different behavioral concepts in order to aid this decision-making. So firstly, they leveraged social proofing. This is seen across so many different apps now. What's most popular? What are most of the other users doing? And this type of information is really great for users when they're uncertain in any way about what they need to do next. Secondly, they've called out the yearly plan in a very different color, so really helping to emphasize the annual plan as their preferred choice. Thirdly, for the yearly plan, they've framed that price at a monthly price. This is a more digestible and easy way for us to understand what is the actual cost, and it helps minimize that barrier of the perceived cost to the user. And lastly, the introduction of the Forever plan. While some users may be straight away willing to pay that much money, it's actually strategically added there to help make the yearly plan seem more reasonably priced. This is often known as the decoy effect. And so overall, these 4 different techniques really help to simplify that decision for the user and make sure that it's more likely that they're going to choose the yearly plan. And that's actually what the Simple Feast app saw. So we've covered some tactics to simplify the behavior. You've identified the barriers. And so what we're going to do now is to move on to step 2 of 3, which is all about triggers. So it's important to place powerful and actionable triggers at relevant moments in front of engaged users. These triggers could be in-app messages, email campaigns, or of course the hugely popular push notification. And I'm sure everyone here would love to achieve a 300% uplift in push notification open rates. So let's find out now how the language learning app Busuu achieved this. Busuu applied the behavioral designer Nir Eyal's hooked model to their push re-engagement campaigns. The first step in the model is this trigger. And if you take a look, the push notification serves as the external trigger, something that's prompted by the developer to get the attention of the user. Now, what's important here is that this external trigger aligns with the user's internal trigger of curiosity. It's messaged as a question. It gets them thinking about a word that they've already learned. And as well as this, an important tactic that Busuu use is they never send the same messaging twice. And I'm sure many of you here tend to get the same daily reminders, the same prompts every single day, and you get bored of it, and you tend to swipe it away without actually reading it. So that importance of variable messaging is crucial. So step 2, the user takes action and then clicks through to complete the quiz. And hopefully they answered the question correctly. If they do, the third step is the reward. And so they receive a well done message, a simple reward for improving their language learning skills. And so all of these different steps together lead to that investment, because this model helps them increase their memory strength. So, and this further aligns their app to their core goal as well. Even better, this investment increases the chances of the user engaging with the app of their own prerogative without needing that developer trigger to remind them to re-engage with the Busuu app. So for more best practices on push notifications and other tools for success, Don't miss this upcoming talk by my colleagues Nico and Gina on this stage at 1:30 p.m. today. So where appropriate, another strategy to ensure your triggers are as powerful as they can possibly be is scarcity. Now, when something's available in limited time or limited quantities, we're prone to value it more because we have a fear of missing out on it. And so go back to that behavior you identified earlier. What can be made scarce that can make more users likely to take that decision to act? So I'm going to show you an example now of how the health and lifestyle app LifeSum wanted to increase the number of subscriptions that users purchased on day one throughout the onboarding flow. So what they did was they offered a starter kit that was messaged as today only. Now, this was available, it was an exclusive starter kit, and it was only available to people who subscribed at that moment. And this add-on increased subscription conversion by 15%. So it's a hugely powerful way of helping to make people act sooner. So we've thought about how we can simplify the behavior, how we can make sure our triggers are in the right places and are as powerful and persuasive as they can possibly be. So our final step is to ensure that our users are motivated and really want to take the desired action. This is one of the hardest elements to influence, and I would encourage focusing on boosting motivation for behaviors where users maybe aren't already sufficiently engaged with the app. So before we dig deeper into motivation, let's just discuss the fact that there are two broad types of motivation that we should think about. So there's intrinsic motivation, where the act of doing something itself is the reward. And then there's extrinsic motivation. So you can think about this in terms of maybe offering incentives. If someone's doing something just to get the resulting benefit of the outcome, that is something that extrinsically motivates us. So games are in many ways the ultimate motivational product. After all, many people here, and I'm sure on the live stream as well, you've all spent hours of your lives playing with these games, especially when they're successfully engaging you. So I'm sure many people here today as well understand that there's a lot of research out there about why games are so powerful. And it goes back to this idea that it's creating this genuine level of engagement when it taps into our intrinsic motivations. So again, the act of playing the game is the reward itself. So what I'm going to do now is share with you a 4-step framework for intrinsic motivation. This was created, it's essentially a summary of 2 different motivational theories, and this was created by, it's called the RAMP framework. It's created by Andrzej Maciuski. And this will really help any app developers who are thinking about different techniques that can help foster intrinsic motivation within their app. So relatedness is the first step of the RAMP framework. Relatedness is all about building social connections, feeling part of a community, and belonging to a community as well. An example in a game would be collaborating with real and virtual friends to complete a mission. The second step in the RAMP framework is autonomy. So this is all about making sure your users have the freedom to make their own choices and decisions and not feel like someone else is controlling them in any way. An example in a game would be exploring a virtual universe or customizing an avatar to your exact liking. The third step is mastery. So mastery is this drive within everyone, all of us, to keep progressing, keep improving our skills. And a gamer might spend hours perfecting their particular skills in order to level up or complete a mission. And the last step in ramping up your users to be motivated to act is this idea of purpose. So this is the drive to add value to a cause larger than ourselves. So when in doubt, adopting techniques that tap into your users' needs, one of these 4 core intrinsic motivations, is going to be a great way of ensuring that. So we're now going to dig into some examples of how app developers are tapping into these 4 intrinsic motivations. And also look out for a future blog post on the Google Play Dev Medium publication, where I'll be deep diving into this in a bit more detail as well. So game elements in and of themselves do not create engagement. But when these elements appeal to what intrinsically motivates us, they have a better chance of creating that. And so I want to now talk you through Catch It English. This is a language learning app. They've obsessed over the use of game elements within their app, and you can see they've had some really great success. They have a 7-day retention rate of 45%, which is on a par with RPG games. And I'm sure many app developers in this room would love to have a retention of almost 45%. So let's now look at the 2 techniques that they've used and the intrinsic motivations that these tap into. So within the app, they have study group functionality. These study groups collaborate together to help each other learn the language. And this taps into our desire for relatedness, so to have connections and to support others. Now, an interesting twist here is that the study groups together can then compete with each other. And again, competition on a leaderboard, that's a really classic way of trying to tap into our desire for mastery. We want to keep improving and get better, and ideally be better than our peers. So as well as this, the app itself has some really exciting visual and audio cues, and they're created in such a way that they help reinforce progress as the user is going through the app and learning English. So various studies suggest that altruistic behavior releases endorphins, also known as the helper's high. So giving your users the opportunity to help others, no matter how indirectly, can really tap into their drive for purpose. The yoga app, Yogaya, really cares about getting more users to attend their online live classes. And so what they did was they ran an A/B test with this in-app messaging here. And essentially what they're asking is, if you attend this live class, we are going to donate money to charity. And in fact, this actually gave them a 9% uplift in class attendance. And also, goal setting goes hand in hand with our desire for mastery. And I'm sure many app developers here are helping their users reach new goals. And so I'm going to now talk through 2 different examples of app developers who are using these types of game elements and seeing great success in terms of user retention. So the hiking app, View Ranger, they have allowed users to sign up for in-app challenges, to hike more, to cycle more. And when they did some analysis, the users that had signed up for these challenges were actually 4 times as active within the View Ranger app than those who hadn't. There's also the Smoke-Free app. Now, they did an A/B test, offering 50% of users daily missions, and the other 50% didn't get access to any daily missions. And what's really amazing here is that the users who saw the daily missions within the app were twice as likely to quit smoking after 3 months. So really powerful motivational stuff there. And so I want to take a step back now. Think back to that user behavior you had identified earlier. Are you using rewards to effectively drive this? I'm going to now share with you a hierarchy of rewards. This is devised by the gamification consultant Gabe Zickerman, and it helps to suggest the order of rewards and how costly they are or how powerful they are at driving loyalty and retention. And so you can see at the very bottom of this is stuff. Stuff is things like cash, gift cards, freebies. So why is this the least powerful when so many of us offer discounts and freebies to try and incentivize people? And one of the reasons could be that they neglect what genuinely motivates us. If you go back to the idea of the RAMP framework, relatedness, autonomy, mastery, purpose, getting these one-time rewards doesn't necessarily tap into that long term. And again, while money and cash can be sufficient to drive short-term behavior change, it can very quickly lose its power because people quickly come to expect the reward every time they take that particular action. And often you have to give more to get them to be motivated to act the second time. So what I would suggest from this slide is rewarding your users with more meaningful rewards. So if we look at status, how can you make your most engaged users feel like VIPs? What are the different perks that they can get that other users might not? And then if we think about access, what are the features within your app that maybe are exclusively accessible to certain users? And that could be a more powerful way of engaging them and actually keeping them retained for longer. So I'm sure many of you in the audience are game developers, and you know that game elements, as I said before, do not in and of themselves create engagement. So I wanted to leave you with a cautionary tale. So points and badges, they're great. However, if they don't genuinely map to what really motivates your users, and if they don't symbolize hard-earned achievements, then they're not going to sufficiently motivate users. And if anything, what they might actually do is make them feel like they're being bribed to act in some way. And this can lead to user frustration. So take a look at this Play Store app rating of a particular developer. When they implemented a points-based system, they quickly saw a dramatic decrease in their average rating because even though they'd implemented the elements themselves, they hadn't necessarily connected it to what motivated those users. So you've thought of the behavior change you wanted to see in your users. We've talked about how you can simplify the behavior, how you can trigger, and then also how you can connect that behavior to something they find intrinsically rewarding. So I'm now going to hand over to Sammy, who will reveal how the Fabulous app successfully drives behavior change, not just within their app, but also within their users' everyday lives. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Hi, everyone. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Pebbles. Pebbles is an app that helps you build healthy routines into your life. We are incubated at Duke University and the Center for Advanced Insight, which is a lab led by Dan Ariely, a professor of behavior economics and the author of the book Predictably Irrational. So I'd like to frame this presentation around this framework that we have developed at the lab that could help you make better decisions in your app. So first of all, think about the behavior. What's the exact behavior that you want your user to achieve? Then think about the barriers. What are the elements that could prevent your user from achieving this behavior? And finally, think about the benefits. What do I gain once I achieve that behavior? So let's quickly jump into one example. This is the first screen that you use it to get when you open Fabulous. And as you can see, it looks pretty good. Let's get Fabulous. What's your most important health goal right now? Then you can choose to feel more energized, to sleep better. Looks pretty well. But there is one big problem with this screen. I'll leave you just a few seconds to think it out. So the problem with the screen was the question that we were asking. What's your most important health goal right now? So when users read this, they started asking themselves all sorts of questions. Can I make the wrong choice? Can I change my opinion later? What if I want to change my goal? So one simple change that we did is just asking them which goal would you like to start with. And now we are giving them the permission to change their mind later. And this has uplifted the onboarding completion rate by 15%. So we wanted to go even further than this, and we started limiting the options as well, like providing them with the default option. And this, again, has increased the retention on day one. So here's a tip. Your user is using your app, and he's asking himself all sorts of questions all the time. Can I put my credit card information? Is it secure enough? So try to answer all these questions for the user. Try always to provide the answer so that the user doesn't feel frustrated. Because otherwise, if he starts asking himself too many questions, he will just close the app. So to tell you a little bit about Fabulous. In Fabulous, we aim to help you build a morning routine. And in our opinion, this is a good morning routine. You wake up, you drink water, you exercise a little bit, and then for some people, you would eat a great breakfast. In order to get you to do this, this is how we use it to do it. This is the old onboarding. So you would get to the screen where you have all these habits, and then everything else is hidden out, and you need to tap on drink water. So we were forcing the users to do this. And I have to tell you, they were really frustrated about this. They thought that we were forcing them. They even sent us this kind of email. You betrayed my trust when I had great expectation for you. Well, how can we solve this? Let's go back to these ideas of behavior economics. Let's first start with the behavior. What's the behavior that we're trying to achieve? Feeling more energized. Well, that's not the behavior, actually. That's the outcome. If you want to think about the behavior, think about the exact steps that your user need to take. In our case, it's waking up in the morning, reaching out to my bottle of water, and then drinking water and taking some time to feel great. The behavior is not the outcome. And then let's get to the second step, the barriers. I want to drink water, or I don't want. What are the barriers? So we conducted the user survey, and these were the three main obstacles. I'm not convinced that I need to drink water. I want to drink water, but I don't have water at reach, or I'm just not very committed. Let's try to solve this. This is the new onboarding. In the new onboarding, instead of asking you to drink water, we start by asking you a few questions. Do you want to build the habit of exercising in the morning? Some people might say yes, some people might say no. Then, do you want to build the habit of eating great breakfast in the morning? Same, some people might say yes, some people might say no. And then we ask you the most important question for us. Do you want to drink water in the morning? So this seems very easy related to the two other goals. It's just drinking water. So even if I said no to the two other questions, I'm going to say yes. Almost 99% of the people are going to say yes. I want to drink water in the morning. And in this case, it was your choice, actually. It was something that you choose to do. It's not us forcing this on you. Now, let's think about the second barrier. I'm not very committed. I don't feel very committed to this. Well, what you can do in this case is using what we call in behavior economics implementation intention, which is simply asking the user, do you commit to drink water tomorrow? And you can even enhance this effect by using what we call active choice. Active choice means that you're going to reframe the yes question as something very positive for your user. Like, I want to drink water and feel great about myself. And then you frame the negative answer as something not that good. I don't want to drink water. I don't care about my health. So here's another way in which you can do this. As you know, we're all trying to get our users to invite their friends. And generally, we would ask them, please invite your friends to our app. It's something really great. It will make us happy. But generally, users will just run away. So another way of doing this is, first of all, by stating the benefit. If you invite your friends to Pebbles, you are much more likely to complete your habits. And then second of all, let's use the active choice. So here we're providing them with 3 choices. 2 of them are positive, 1 is negative. One of them is, I'd like to invite my friend to join me in this journey. I want to invite my friend to monitor me on this journey. And then the third choice is, I'll do it on my own. It's a little bit negative, actually. So always answer this question for the user. What is it in for me? What do I gain out of doing this action? Always provide the benefits. Go through the copy of your app and state everything as benefits, not as goals, not as objective, but as benefits for the final user. Now, here's a bonus one. You can get your user to commit even more by using what we call a commitment contract, which is simply asking the user to commit to a place and time in which they are more likely to accomplish that behavior. And then you would ask them to sign up this with their name. This is called the commitment contract. Now, let's think about the next barrier. Well, I want to drink water, but I just don't have water at reach. If you think about your users, they are much more likely to commit to your app when they first open the app or when they just have completed one milestone. So this is the best time for you to ask for even more engagement. In our case, after they commit, we're going to ask them, would you like us to send us a reminder tonight so that you put your water bottle by your bedside? This is beneficial for the users, so they are really likely to say yes. If you are a finance app, this could be the right moment to ask them to set up automatic saving. If you are Google Photo, this is the right time to ask for auto backup of your pictures. So think about one action in your app that could really lead to much more engagement. Think about ways to make it automated, and then ask the user to commit to this on high points, either on the onboarding or just after they successfully completed the milestone within your app. So now let's get to the third part, the benefit part. What do I gain out of doing all of this? Well, this is an interesting one, because of course, it's changing from one app to the next. If you are a weight loss app, it's very easy to it's very easy for the user to know that they have gained something. They will just wait themselves 1 week in, and they would see if this has been beneficial or no. So in the case of Pebbles, since we didn't have that, we thought about this idea. So each time that you complete your habit, we're going to ask you to take some time to celebrate, to feel good about yourself. You need something tangible to provide for the user after a few days of usage so that they understand that they're gaining something out of your app. And here's a good way to think about it. Let's suppose that I keep using your app for a few months. How's this going to transform my life? Now take all these benefits and make them immediate and salient. Tell the user, this is what you're gaining on every step of the way. So here is it. We have now applied the 3 tenets of behavior economics. First of all, we started with the outcome. We want the user to feel more energized. And from there, we got the exact behavior that we need to apply. I want to wake up and reach out to my bottle of water. And then we conducted the user survey to know about the barriers. And some people are not committed enough. In this case, we used what we call the implementation intention in order to get them to commit. Some people didn't have water at reach. So we used the active choice idea in order to get us to send them a gentle reminder that same night for them to put a water bottle by their bedside. And then we have provided them with a tangible benefit by asking them to celebrate for a few minutes their achievement. Hope this has been useful. Thanks, and back to Jenny.
Thank you very much. So I want just to recap. If you go back to that one key behavior you identified at the beginning of this talk, I really hope that you found something inspiring from both mine and Sammy's session, and that you already have great ideas of how you're going to implement these into your own app. And so once you have done that, I'd love it if you could share with us your app techniques via Twitter using the hashtag #appengagement. And to keep in touch with us about Google Play in general as well, please stay up to date via these links here. And as I've mentioned before, the medium.com/GooglePlayDev is another great resource for best practices. So I hope you really enjoyed today's session. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, please go ahead and step up to the mic. Thank you.